Brendon Williams is going to say, we're going to ask him to come back up and do a little bit of closing here, and then we'll just, we'll thank a couple people at the very end, but give it up again for Brendon to take us home here.
Well, thanks again, Stu, and thank you to everyone who's come forward to really put a face on the healthcare crisis and the need for healthcare. And you know, you really think what better symbol of our need to reform our healthcare system than the fact that the very people providing healthcare at Providence St. Peter Hospital are having difficulty negotiating with management over the cost of their healthcare. And I know that the same situation has been true for UFCW over at Capital Medical Center. Clearly the system is broken and needs to be fixed. We need to have action in Washington, D.C. And this really is a culmination of all our faith and efforts in getting President Obama elected. And I see so many people who are just a huge part of that effort from the very beginning. And it is time for us to bring it home and to see an outcome by this Christmas, because if this thing slides into next year, into an election year, the superheated hothouse of partisanship is going to get even more oppressive, going to make it even more difficult for anything to get done. So you've got to let your voices be heard. Two members of Congress, your members of Congress, do all that you can to encourage your friends, to encourage your family, to encourage friends and family that don't live here in Washington State or live in the 3rd Congressional District, to make their voices heard so that we can get action on this. And you know, I think it's entirely appropriate that we frame this in moral terms. This is a moral crisis. I was at the Thurston County Food Bank recently. You know, there's over 800 kids in our area schools. They go to their schools and pick up food and backpacks and bring them home to their families. And you think about that sort of need, all the people lining up at the Thurston County Food Bank itself, and then you imagine all the people out there who are struggling also with health care and finding accessible health care, and just how very difficult it is, and how very humiliating it is that in this great country of ours that they're not able to find help for this human need. So it is a moral issue, and I think it's entirely appropriate that we conclude with a moral voice in our community. Rabbi Seth Goldstein, if you might come up, is always a great voice whenever he gives the invocation before the House of Representatives. Always proud to see him. So Rabbi Seth, here we go.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here today. I'm honored to be with you all on this occasion at this important time to have this important conversation. I'm here today as a rabbi, someone who believes that each one of us is full of blessing and holds within us the spark of the divine. Each one of us has the spark of the divine. That means that each one of us is worthy of respect and honor and deserving of that. I'm here also as a concerned citizen who, as part of this society, recognizes that we all have fundamental rights and obligations, and the need to guarantee those rights of life and liberty. They're paramount for us as citizens. And I feel I'm also here as a patient, for I myself had to make use of our healthcare system, undergone some costly and important medical treatment, and feel humbled and blessed that I did have access to health insurance and recognize the importance of the need to make that accessible to all. Healthcare, it's an issue that shouldn't be about party or politics or about sides, but it's a fundamental human issue. It's about what we owe each other as members of the same community, as fellow human beings. I was late to this gathering. I just arrived. I apologize because today is Shabbat. It's the Sabbath, and I had obligations over at the synagogue. It's good we're only a block away. So I able to run right down and have a few minutes to catch my breath. But I made a point of coming because there's an important teaching in Judaism, a fundamental teaching within our Jewish tradition, and that's the notion of pikuach nefesh, of saving a life, of saving our life. That our lives are a gift from the divine, and that to preserve life, we must do all that is necessary, even at the expense of other ritual observances. So what does this mean, pikuach nefesh? It means that if you are ailing on Yom Kippur, our most sacred day in the calendar, a day of atonement and a day of fasting, that if you are ailing on this day, that you must eat, even though tradition speaks of refraining from food and drink. And it means that on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, one of the holiest days of the week, that all of the traditions and services are overridden if one must attend to someone in need. But pikuach nefesh to me means not only these individual acts, but our communal acts. That what we can do as a community to save a life. And healthcare reform is one such step of pikuach nefesh, of saving lives, of respecting and honoring the lives of each one of us. Not only is today Shabbat, but it's the first day of Hanukkah. This week-long festival, which marks the rededication of the ancient temple in Jerusalem in the 2nd century BCE, it's marked by a week-long lighting of lights. We light the menorah for 8 nights. Each night, the number of candles that we light corresponds to the day of the festival, continually building and increasing that light. And I don't think it's not a coincidence that this festival happens at this season, the darkest time of the year, just as many traditional celebrations at this time include light, the lighting of lights. For what we are doing during Hanukkah is we are lighting lights against the darkness. And as we do so, we rededicate, just like the ancients rededicated the temple, their central institution that was important to them, so too must we rededicate ourselves to our central institutions and that which is important to us. Let us rededicate ourselves to the effort to guarantee the inherent dignity and divinity of each individual life through the guarantee of affordable and accessible health care. To create a society where worry over health care is alleviated, where each of its citizens has equal protection and care, and where everyone is afforded the opportunities to grow, to live, to love, and to prosper. Thank you very much. And thank you for continuing this fight for affordable health care for all.